Okay, now remember, it's a rolling off motion that disengages the bond. When the meter is blue, that's full adhesion. Easy way to remember, blue is glue.
And when it's red?
Dead. Here's your cutter, okay? And your server interface, both going back here. 1, 2. Okay.
During an IMF operation, a bomb goes off in the Kremlin, and the IMF is held responsible. The US Secretary disavows the entire IMF, initiating Ghost Protocol, and Ethan and his team are branded terrorists. Now Ethan and his team have to stop the real criminals and their plot to cause global nuclear war. The first thing you notice in this movie versus Mission Impossible 3 is that it takes its time to set up an action scene. Brad Bird understands that he needs to immerse you into the moment. There's a good bit of wide shots where we can clearly see the action that's happening. And we're able to process the feel of these scenes. The big thing that Brad Bird does really well with this movie is sound design. Whether it's debris whizzing by or the sound of glass breaking, it's always just the right volume, it's always just the right timing to make it impactful. And his choice of when to use score works really well. There's a scene in the Kremlin that's just silent and it works beautifully. We finally get a sequence in this movie that can rival the CIA headquarters scene in the first Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise actually hung from a wire on the Burj Khalifa to film this scene. You definitely feel the height. I found myself catching my breath every now and then because it's just that suspenseful. It's an iconic scene and it's one that'll be remembered for a long time. There's also a desert storm scene which really shows Brad Bird's mastery of color in the frame. He's able to convey to us that the characters can't see anything that's going on while still making an action scene that looks nice. And while this movie is really well directed, the plot is very, very simple. The movie establishes stakes, the situation, and the goal, and gives us characters that we can like, and then goes on from there. And most of the movie is not all that compelling from a dramatic standpoint, like you never really get invested in the characters' emotions. The thing that's keeping the movie engaging is Brad Bird's great presentation of the story. Now, we all know Tom Cruise is great in these movies. He's very dedicated, he does his own stunts, he makes the movie better. He brings that leading man energy into every scene to make it more engaging. I really like Jeremy Renner's character in this movie, because he also feels like an action star like Tom Cruise does, but he feels more vulnerable than Tom Cruise. And when Jeremy Renner does a stunt, he's overtly scared to do it, which is unlike Tom Cruise, who usually plays his fear more subtly. And I like that the movie gives us that variation. I also really like that this movie focuses on the team, more so than just Ethan Hunt. The ways in which the characters banter and work together is an important part of the flow of the movie. That also just helps to maintain our investment, because now it's not all based on just one character. I also love that almost every sequence involves their gadgets malfunctioning. It's a really good way to maintain the balance between showing off the cool gadgets while also making every action scene based on the character's actions, not the gadget. This is a fun, engaging, and smartly crafted action movie that understands that you need suspense as well as pretty visuals. I'm going to give Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol an A-.